Now, let's actually build the Silverlight plugin. Right? Remember, one of the nice features of 2.0 is that we have more than just a canvas. Not everything. Right? If you've done WPF, there's like, what, 15 different containers? Okay? Here we got 3. But they're useful. Right? Canvas has been around since the beginning. Now we got grids and stack panels too. And the whole idea in WPF and Silverlight is that the content model demands that whether it be a user control or a page or a window, there can only be one piece of direct content. So imagine how useless a window with only one button would be. Right? So typically the one piece of content is a layout manager. And inside of that layout manager are 75 other layout managers. And inside of all their little cells are going to be all the real controls. So the corollary is, if you're going to be doing Silverlight, you're going to be arranging content through stack panels. Okay? So this is how it's going to look when we're done. And notice a couple of cool things here, right? Here I am running on Safari, Apple Safari. Here I'm running on IE. Okay? Now, again, this is meant to be a fun little example program, but think of the things we're going to be doing here. Okay, see those little colorful circles? Those are all going to be animating. They're going to be bouncing around this lower quadrant. Okay? And they're all going to be hit testable. So if I put my mouse on one and click it, it's going to update which circle I clicked on over here. Right? See that guy right there? That's just a basic button that I've re-rendered in a new way using something called a control template. Okay? And of course, everyone loves grids full of data. So if I click that button, we're going to talk to the remote WCF service, get my array of circle data, and plug it into this little grid through a data binding operation. Can I get the flavor? Okay. So let's go ahead and kind of break this down in the markup, because a significant amount of this whole thing is just being done through XAML. There's very, very little C# code. Okay. Alrighty. So let's close down all this jazz. Let's go back to this jazz. Let me just do this. Go to the Silverlight application. Now remember, I could open up the same Silverlight project in Blend and do a lot of crazy customizations. Here I just typed it in myself. Now let me try to make this somewhat readable. So let me just do this real quick. Let me crank up the font. And let me go to full screen mode. Let me just flip this over on its side. Again, probably not perfect, but get what you pay for, right? Free talk. Okay, so notice how we are creating a user control, right? Whenever you make any user control, you will automatically have references to these 2 particular XML namespaces. And baked inside of the actual assemblies, like the Silverlight assemblies, are a whole bunch of attributes, which will map these simple-looking strings to numerous .NET namespaces. So these first 2 XML namespaces are basically bringing in support for all the Silverlight .NET namespaces. Right? So that's how we get things like IntelliSense, for example. Okay? But this one down here is unique. Remember, we talked about how when you're doing XAML, it doesn't have to directly map to a user interface element. It could map to any class in any assembly. So if you are authoring XAML, and you need to be able to say, well, I'm trying to describe this thing in my library of code that I wrote, right? There's actually a little token called CLR namespace. And that's where you can map to external libraries. See this? Assembly equal. This guy here, I'm sure you're all going to want to mark this one down. System.windows.controls.data.dll. Therein lies the data grid. You have to bring in that reference to get the data grid. Okay? So I'm going to give it my own custom tag prefix, which I'm just going to call data. Right? So now basically what I've done here in my root element is this user control now understands all the basic Silverlight libraries and the library that has the data grid. So now as I'm typing all my markup, the IntelliSense is going to kick in and I know what's going on. Okay? Now, the first thing I want to talk about is this button over here. Okay, this is a normal everyday button. So under the hood, he's the same button as the gray rectangle. Okay? But what I've done is I've completely redesigned how it looks. And this is another wicked, way cool thing about WPF technologies. You know, before we had WPF and XAML, if you wanted to customize anything, you were writing a custom control, right? So if you wanted to make a button that looked like that, and you were an MFC programmer, you were subclassing, overriding, adding code, changing rendering operations, doing bit shifting, and then you're done like a month later, right? Even if you're going to use something much more easy, you know, like Windows Forms, you're still going to write a lot of code. Now you're done maybe a week later, right? Well, here, that whole button has been completely restyled with maybe, what, 30 lines of markup, okay? So what we're building here is something which is called a control template. And control templates are effectively a type of style. Okay, so very similar to like ASP.NET. You know how ASP.NET 2.0 introduced server-side themes? Okay, well, styles are kind of a corollary to that. Okay, we can go ahead and define a look and feel for a widget and then apply it on the widget. Okay, now typically when you're working with themes and custom templates, we package them up using something called a logical resource. You also may hear the term an object resource. Okay? Another cool thing about WPF technologies, you can describe the look and feel of an arbitrary thing, put it in a resource dictionary, and refer to it everywhere in your program, right through markup. Right? It's basically a big property bag. It's a dictionary. Right? Now here, I just put it right inside of the user controls resource bag. So that would mean this one user control knows exactly what the round button template is. If I wanted to make that available for the whole application, it would be a better idea to store the same thing here in the application resources. Right? Now everything in my project knows what the round button template is. Okay? In fact, if I were to copy and paste that, it would still work the same way. Right? But I'm trying to keep it all focused into one area here.